Well, hello everybody and welcome. We are Lizzie and Justin from Third Space, and we are here again this week, Lizzie, for the 394th week of our Turning Towards Life conversation. It's so good to see you, Lizzie, and welcome to all of you, whether you are with us on YouTube, Instagram, in our Facebook group, on a podcast, or on our lovely Turning Towards Life website, where you can find this conversation and all the other preceding 393 are all available there. It's very good to be with you. And we're going to very straightforwardly in a moment do what we do every week, which is, Lizzie, you have brought us a source, something to stretch us and deepen us and challenge us by reading it together, and then we're going to unfold into a conversation which will take us who knows where, we never know. But one of the things that we keep on finding is how rich and deep and alive this conversation is, and we're very glad to share it with all of you. And Lizzie, I know you and I have spent a lot of time talking about how this conversation is appears to be just an unfolding conversation between you and I, but we know that it is also in the minds and hearts and between many other people. So it extends out into the world in many ways. And that gives me a chance just to say we're at week 394. Week 400, details to come very, very shortly. Week 400 is the 8th of June, 2025. We are hosting a live on Zoom celebration in the afternoon time in the UK, early afternoon UK time on the 8th of June 2025, which you are all very welcome to join us for, to celebrate Turning Towards Life, turning 400. And in September, we are beginning a project called Turning Towards Life Live, which is where we bust out beyond the bounds of this being a video and a podcast and a conversation with many of you by email and on Facebook, into an opportunity to meet and study and learn and deepen and practice together over 6-month seasons. And if you would like to find out about both of those, please, please, please join our Facebook group, Turning Towards Life, or head over to turningtowards.life, where you can register your interest and also sign up for our weekly emails, and all the details will be in there. I, Lizzie, am incredibly excited that we might get to meet many people who've been alongside us for a while and people who are joining us new as well in just a few weeks' time. And I'm excited about this source that we're going to talk about today as well.
Thank you, Justin. Can't believe we're heading towards 400 episodes. It's so excellent and strange to me that that's even possible. So we have this wonderful piece of writing from the amazing Wendell Berry, and it's called Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. And I want to thank Robert, my brother-in-law, for sending it my way, this poem. And it goes like this. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbours and to die. And you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance for what man has not yet encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium, plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields, lie down in the shade, rest your head in her lap, swear allegiance to what is nighest in your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection.
Thank you, Lizzie. So you can find this amazing piece of writing by Wendell Berry probably in lots of places, but one place you can always find it is in the notes at turningtowards.life and in the show notes for all the different places we put this out. And this is a manifesto by Wendell Berry for the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. One of the things I know about this, Lizzie, is that Wendell Berry, who we had a source from a couple of weeks ago, he's making an appearance in our work now, has written a lot of poems under this banner of the Mad Farmer poems, and they're all amazing, provocative, joyful, fierce, loving, radical poems. Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made, be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing, take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium, plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields, lie down in the shade, rest your head in her lap, swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection.
Thank you, Justin. One of the things I love about this is that it's really long. And it's like a keeping on feeling of kind of saying lots of things about something that's the same thing, to keep saying it in a different way, to keep reminding and saying in different language. And the word, Justin, that kept coming to me when you were reading, and I had my eyes closed just to kind of see and feel what was here inside me on the inside. And the word eccentric came to me. And I've never met Wendell Berry. And I have a feeling that maybe he is like an excellent prime definition of eccentric. And then I was thinking about the word eccentric, like always when we say a word, I'm like, oh no, what does that even mean? My meanings have all gone now. What does it mean anew today, kind of thing? And I was thinking it just means out of the center, someone who isn't dominated by and made to live by what is our dominant culture or our dominant story that we're constantly being re-enrolled in the whole time. And someone who sees it for what it is and learns to live somewhere that isn't of that order, that isn't in this way where we're hoodwinked by the annual raise and the vacation with pay and the everything ready-madeness of life, but who actually looks to what life really is. And it had me thinking about all the ways that we've made up to live in the world, and how some of those made up ways are really excellent and some of them really don't serve us at all. And that we have every right, and we are built to question the things we're given. And we have every right to say yes to some things and to say no to some things, and to really think. And this line where he said, your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. I feel like it is so easy to be a person that doesn't actually think about things. It's so easy and kind of natural to be taken by the system that we live in and just take everything for granted as if it's as it should be, and to not ask any questions and not wonder why it is this way. And do I have to do that? Or maybe I don't have to do that. And we went camping this week, Justin, as a family, in a place where there was no mobile signal, no electricity, and you had to walk a while for some running water. And it was really hardcore with young children and a bit ridiculous. And it was this kind of really eye-opening wondering about, it almost gave me a position to see things from a distance rather than just be kind of inside them. And I feel kind of connected to Wendell Berry on that level. I mean, it's ridiculous. I did 2 days of wild camping, and Wendell Berry's lived on a farm for his whole life and made his own food and all of the things. So it is a little bit ridiculous, but it had me, when you were reading, I was kind of connecting to the fact that Wendell Berry must be fully in touch with nature a lot of the time to be able to see like this. And what a gift. And I was looking at the children in the middle of a field with just nothing, and how much they suited fieldness. They just suited being in the field and not worrying about a car going past or if there was a shop or anything. It was just pure being in this field. And of course they are pure being when they're little. And thinking how in touch with that realm Wendell Berry must be to be able to write this and see this and live this way and invite us in this way. And how much of a gift that relationship with nature that we can have and should have and do have as human beings, that's possible. And I feel very, like you said at the beginning, kind of stretched and invited to question and to not sit in things as if they always have been that way and therefore they should be that way and there's nothing for me to wonder about, but to really be appreciative of what it means to think, and to ask myself, why not laugh in the face of everything that's wrong? And why not attend to loving the world and working for nothing and loving someone who doesn't deserve it. Like, I just feel this, there's just as much value in doing that as doing the opposite of that. And we get to choose. And I think that's the kind of liberatory feeling that I received from Wendell Berry, is that there's a way to live that has freedom inside of it, like our own inner freedom in it. And that's given to us just inherently. We actually do have freedoms when it comes to our inner world and our relationship to the world. And we don't have to play whatever the game is that we happen to be on the board of. We don't have to walk in the way that we're told, and that we can. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. It's like we need that invitation. Otherwise, we might not even consider that, or we might not even do it.
Yeah. It's wonderful that he calls this, I think, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. I was thinking when you were reading of stories, myths and stories I know from other traditions where there's a real value placed upon what happens when we go mad, in the sense of I don't mean losing touch with reality. What I mean is often those are stories about someone who's somehow taken up a whole other interpretation that doesn't make sense in the ordinary everyday convention, and what that then brings because of it. And it might bring difficulties and terrible things. You might lose contact with some core values that keep our communal life going, but you might also be deeply in touch with something very life-giving that's very, very necessary. And that's what Wendell Berry's doing here. And there's so much. I mean, the thing is with this poem is we could take each line, and what I was tracking as you were reading, Lizzie, was which ones of these do I find inviting? Like I want to go, oh my goodness, yes. And which ones do I find really confronting and really challenging? Like what disturbs me and what enlivens me? And there are things of equal measure through here. And then to learn that both have a kind of truth in them, that there's the aliveness that I'm drawn to, where I can feel something calling. For an example for me of that one is there are so many. I'm not even going to scroll through whilst we're talking here, but also to notice the ones that are challenging, that they've got a kind of aliveness into, because what they do is they wake us up out of our sleepiness. Like when we're confronted by something, particularly someone with the kind of wisdom that Wendell Berry has, he's not just being fanciful here. He's asking us to really think, like you said, to really think about things. And last week when we spoke, and this is sort of reference number 393 about coaching, Lizzie, that you and I talked about. I've been thinking about that as we've been reading, because one of the things that we could say is that it's a very ordinary human thing to settle into a life of familiarity, like a cycle where we know who we are and we know what we value, we know what we do, and that feeds who we are and what we value and what we do and what we observe and what we practice, and it goes round and round and round in a very predictable cycle. There's something very excellent about us, that us humans can do that, and it's how we build families and societies and organizations and cultures and communities. But at the same time, what that cycle of familiarity does is it also walls us off from the world, or it can wall us off from the world, because it becomes self-sealing, self-perpetuating. And so we live always in a tension between settling into the familiar and waking up out of the familiar into what the familiar does not yet take account of. It doesn't put us in contact with. And again, I think this is an invitation clearly into the unfamiliar. It's to make a new familiar that breaks through by being unfamiliar, provocative, give approval to all you cannot understand. love someone who does not deserve it, expect the end of the world and laugh. This is the last thing I wanted to say at this bit. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail the way that you didn't go. So the bracket of this poem, where it starts and when it ends, is not only to point out to us that there are perils in the familiar, in living a life that goes round and round and round, in which we think we know what things are, who we are and who other people are and all that, but also that we live in a world where our tendency towards the familiarity will be manipulated by those for whom it is of benefit. So hence love, the quick profit, the annual raise, want everything more ready, more of everything ready made, be afraid to know your neighbors and die. These are of a great benefit to others, largely often who will make money from us or have power over us. And I don't know when Wendell Berry wrote this, but it's a great forerunner of the power that social media has, for example, that algorithms have to keep on reinforcing what we already think we know and feel, and to keep amplifying that loop and not give us the opportunity to wake up. And we get fed. I mean, it doesn't just happen on social media, but it happens particularly there where we get fed more of who we already have said we are, because the algorithms know us. And that's why I was so moved by as soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind. That's what we're in the midst of, actually. Lose it, leave it as a sign to mark the false trail the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction, and that way practice resurrection. Now there, if ever there was a reminder that what we're called to do if we want to be alive in our lives, is to put ourselves in the path of experiences that we tend to avoid, people who we tend to disagree with, others who are unlike us, ideas that we would normally reject. And obviously not just to be gullible or what you said was, we're being asked to think about things here, but to really think is going to disturb us and discomfort us, as well as as much as it's going to enliven us and take us deep into the forests where we can marvel at the wonder of the trees and of life itself.
As you're talking, Justin, I'm finding myself kind of really taken by this way that we could live with systems as a wondering. Like if the system is the alreadiness, the familiarity, how do I relate to the system where I begin to kind of listen to it rather than take it for granted? So where there's a dominant pattern in a system of maybe staying quiet or not speaking up, and then somewhere in the system, someone starts speaking up and saying lots of things, and you can either go, oh, we need to reject that, or we need to turn towards it and wonder what it's trying to teach us in service of this waking up thing. And what is it to turn towards the tree roots? What is it to turn towards laughter? What is it to turn towards something that isn't computable in the system? And to kind of, I think this invitation from Wendell Berry is to kind of actively cultivate that. Not only listen to what the system's trying to tell us and pay attention in very different ways, but to create circumstances, to create happenings that serve our being woken, as you say, to actually seek that out, to say, I'm going to think so that I can be awake to things that are in service of awakeness, that are in service of liberation. And as you say, that might be really uncomfortable. You know, if I'm in a family system where we're all really polite to one another all the time and all of our problems get shoved under the carpet, and then I start saying, actually, can we look at that time that this thing happened that nobody ever talked to me about or apologized for? It's a massive kind of rupture. And if we're not all open to whatever that opening is, that expansion of understanding, or as you say, a new normal being born, if we're not up for that collectively, even we can make all kinds of stories up about that. Oh, they're a troublemaker, they shouldn't be here, that shouldn't be happening, they're laughing in the middle of a serious conversation, how dare they? You know, it's like, it's so easy just even in ordinary ways to see how hard it is to turn towards what's actually happening given our habitual nature. As you said, the really useful part of our nature that makes things and creates, but also how important it is to be onto ourselves when that habitualness is stale, or it's not showing us the full picture or something. But that life is calling us. And I often think, Justin, that if we're not up to this consciously, that we're not going, okay, I'm going to look at myself and see where my points of discomfort are, where the things I'm drawn to are, and I'm going to allow myself to kind of be undone in some way. I feel really strongly that life will come and do that for us. It will. There will be something that happens in service of our growth that actually forces the issue in some way. Because I think life is actually for us in so many ways. And if I'm not going to kind of do my part to face into the ways that I want everything to be controlled in exactly the way I think, something's going to come along to really have me question my sense of control. Life will do it for me, whether I have a go myself consciously or whether the world has to do it for me. Something will happen. And I feel like, you know, those times, Justin, are what we often are in support of others inside of, is when the world comes at us and goes, no, you're gonna have this happen. This is gonna be what what the story is for now, so that this thing can be really looked at. And so I'm feeling the kind of the supportive nature of Wendell Berry's invitation to us to kind of, I don't know, meet ourselves in the purposeful path that each of us is on, and in the questioning and the undoing that happens of our own volition, of our own wishes, of our own consciousness. It's much easier to allow what's happening then to us to be met with wisdom and compassion and openness, rather than be in this fight to stay small and habitual and know I want things just the way that I want them. And so we can learn to practice into kind of loving what's here and what is, and in spite of whatever that might be, we can make our lives ours. And that feels what this with this whole thing to me is about, is what is mine. Like you said, I can look at this poem and I can feel the pieces of it that are for me, that really break me open, and I can turn towards them and I can study them and I can say, okay, yeah, look at all the ways that I love everything being ready made. What does that actually give me? What does that actually do for my life force? What does that do for the people around me? Am I afraid to know my neighbors? Where is all my fear of dying? Where am I at with that? I can actually ask the questions that Wendell Berry is suggesting, and see how all of that is kind of designed to keep me asleep. And I can make some different choices and reflections and wonderings about how I really want to live from this.
I I really appreciate the part, Lizzie, that Wendell Berry puts in the middle about which he writes as, so long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men, and ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? And I just want to say something about that briefly, because first of all, I am really with you about the noticing what in our systems we exclude and push out and push away. And I was thinking about my first experience of going to my now longtime wife Davina's family when I was in my late teens, and I grew up in a very measured, quiet, calm family, and her family was they would yell at one another across the dinner table and slam the doors and all these kind of things. And I remember going the first time thinking, oh my goodness, this is terrible. And now I learned that what they were doing was a kind of truthfulness. You know, I was unfamiliar with the intensity of it, but they were practicing a kind of truthful conversation that I have come to really appreciate, really needed. And there's been one of the fabulous things for me about this long relationship has been keeping on reminded about truthfulness and its value. And that's why I just wanted to draw briefly attention to this, which is when we allow ourselves to wake up out of that of our familiarity, which is a kind of sleepiness, you know, which excludes and smothers and it's easy to take everything that's new and different as if it's the answer to our sleepiness. But of course, not all ideas are of equal value. Some create great cruelty and unkindness in the world. And so just because it's new and different doesn't necessarily mean it's the path to follow. So Wendell Berry has gone to great pains here to make sure that there are places where in among his invitations to new, he keeps on reminding us of how to find out what's true. And this line, so long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. There's lots we could say about this, about gender and all that. I mean, there's a whole conversation to have here. But I think his reminder that that which will satisfy someone who is about to give birth, someone who is about to bring another life into the world and all that entails, that is so different from chasing after going cheap for something. You know, those moments where we are called into an encounter with what is most real and visceral about being a living person, that's also where we need to listen, because it will puncture our sleepiness and our familiarity about what we're doing, but it will also help us to determine, you know, do I just, oh, well, maybe the answer to all of this is to become incredibly selfish. Maybe I'll just have everything I want at the expense of that. That would break me out of my psyche. Yes. But would it answer the questions of someone about to bring a life into the world, someone about to embody that sacred, visceral life and death task? So I'm appreciative that what this piece of work does is it holds together life and death, the known and the unknown, kindness and unkindness, waking up out of our predictability and the machine metaphor into something poetic and artistic and alive and connected with nature. But what he's also always asking us to do is to stay true, like is to ask a big enough question. And I'm saying all of this because I know how many times I've been on the edge of, oh, there'll be something new and exciting, and it's turned out to be, you know, vapor, because it doesn't have the requisite depth or contactfulness with life that we're being asked for here. And that's a grown-up way to encounter our waking up from that which has us be asleep.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned this middle bit, Justin. Just thank you for that. And I think this is a wonderful moment to end. And I'm going to end holding this line: will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? And thank you to Wendell Berry for knowing what that means. And thank you for you, Justin, and your sensitivity too. And we'll be back next week with our further episode of Turning Towards Life. So thank you, everybody, for being here.